tagging in blacklight is going to be the thing that you're going to utilize as an examiner and an end user for, I want to look at this later, or I want to include this in my report, so that when you make that final product, they will know what you were trying to show them about the evidence that you spent all this time analyzing and processing. In blacklight, there's all kind of little nit tips and little features that you want to know about as a user for doing tagging in a certain way, or how it's going to be useful for you. The examiner will create tags throughout the entire process, whether it's right in the beginning, right at the end, or everywhere in the middle. The ability to do dynamic tagging in blacklight is one of my personally favorite things about the tool. It is a unique feature that will enable you as an examiner to tag the things that you want to tag. So you don't just have to tag the file or the entire file. You can tag parts of the file. You can tag just some of the hex. You can tag the ASCII interpretation of things. You can tag an entry within a plist file. And then finally at the end, you want to be able to organize those tags for your review and then ultimately your reporting purposes. Visually within blacklight, if you were to tag something, it's going to show this yellow icon next to it that looks just like an old evidence item tag. You will also see this if the file itself is tagged. You will see it if the entries inside of the file are tagged. So it's just something to note as you continue to utilize your case in blacklight. In the file content viewer, if you have the hex tab open and you find some interesting hex or ASCII down there that you would like to tag for reference later, you can do this by sweeping over what you would like to save for later and then right-clicking or option-clicking on that entry. And then you'll note that in those windows that pop up under the tag section, these tag hex data as or tag file as, those will change depending on what you're trying to tag at that time. So that's another key thing as an end user to keep an awareness of. Also note that once you're in the section for the tag whatever as, you will have the ability to do a brand new tag, a most recent tag, or whatever tags already exist, and you can also see the relating hotkey to being able to make that tag without using your right-click option and bringing up the window. So for those keyboard shortcut users, you can get familiar with this and you can tag things fairly quickly and organize things very quickly. A really nice blacklight tip is when you're tagging data, it will give you the option of how that data is going to be interpreted to look within your tag. So for example, if you were to swipe some hex and you know that hex is a date and time value, you will have the information that you tagged in the hex. You will also have the option of selecting the date and time that you want it to be interpreted as and then show as in the tag also. Then once in the tag itself, you have the ability to turn on or off whether the view of the hex will show up in that report. So we're going to go over a really quick example of this in your case. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up the system.log file. We're going to find a shutdown time, and there's going to be a string behind that shutdown time that we're going to want to tag. So in your example case, I want you to make sure you have Macintosh HD data active selected, nothing else right now. I'm going to go into File Filter. Clear it out with Reset if you have anything here. I'm going to drop this down. We're going to do name, system.log, filter. You should get one hit. select that hit. Make sure you're on the hex tab. In the hex tab, there's a couple ways to do this. We're going to select, and we're going to do Control Find or Command Find, and we're going to type in shutdown _time, and all this is going to do is simply find the value we're typing in here in just this amount of data here. So hit find. It'll bring us to that entry fairly quickly. You'll see the hex is already highlighted for us here, but we don't want to tag this entry for shutdown _time. We want to grab the time that's actually behind it and sweep that. So you can do the 1 to the 5, and then once you have that selected, go ahead and right click or option click on that and do text hex data as. And we're going to do a new tag. For this new tag, we're going to do shutdown time hex. Hit OK. Now what's going to happen is you'll get this interpreter data window that'll pop up. For our case here, we're just going to do a strings view UTF-8. So notice that our value is going to be these numbers here. So if we go down here, we notice our hexadecimal value is this string, and then in our ASCII interpreter, it's going to be those numbers. And that's what we're showing you an example of here. So select OK. We have a new tagged entry here for shutdown time hex. And this is what's going to show up in our actual tag. Not the file, just what we selected in the hex view, and then what we added in the interpreted data view and brought that in. So we see our hex view here at the top, and we see our decimal, or we see our UTF-8 here underneath it. Now all the way on the right hand side here, you'll see this little white box with the 0 and 1 and the TX in it. If we click on that, it's a toggle. So basically, this is going to determine what shows up in my report when I generate it. A blacklight tip related to that same kind of area when you're already within a tag and you can toggle between the hex and the interpreted view, you can also select these other icons here. The one with the green plus in it is just a note where you can actually type in whatever you would like a note about that tag. The one with the eye is going to be the one where you can change those file metadata fields that you included to show up in your report. So if you added some and you wanted to take some away, or you didn't add enough and you wanted to add some more now, this is where you would do that in the tag. And finally, the little upside down drop that's red, this signifies location data. And if you wanted to include that in your tag or not, you can toggle that here also. When tagging multiple files at one time in your blacklight case, you will get that file metadata window. Important note here is that it's going to show you every metadata entry from any of those files. So you could be seeing entries here to include that have nothing to do with one of the other files you selected. So just be careful with that when you're making your multiple files in a tag at one time. But to be fair, it gives you the option to add any and all entries from any of those files that you've tagged. And of course, you can delete tags at any time that you've already created. And then another important thing is if you have a tag in multiple locations or in multiple groups, you can remove it from just one group at a time. It won't remove it from all of them unless you select it to do so. And finally, working with filters and the tags that you've created. So as an examiner, you may come to a conclusion where you want to look at certain tags and do some more analysis just on those tags that you've created. With the file filters in Blacklight, you have that capability, and it utilizes that metadata of the tag state to be able to filter quickly between them and then do what you would like to do with those files as a user.